our Kyalami round of the Sim Race SA GP Championship. We have 20 seconds before the lights go out at around Kyalami, and 10 seconds to go. Everybody hold on to your hats. This is going to be an absolute cracker of a race. 1 lights, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4, 5, 6, and we're waiting for them to go out. And we're off. We're off. Lawrence Stern with a good start, challenging Jacques Potter, who had pole. Jacques got the inside line, however. And Sterner has taken him. Sterner has got the lead and a good drive. In fact, Jacques dropped to third there briefly. Oh, Matthew Boy getting tagged. Looks like possibly Brent Lindsay Ray tagged him. So all kicking off as we go into our first lap of an hour and a half. This is going to be a long race, so everybody needs to try and stay calm. It's a long race. They've got to make these tires last. Got to make the strategy count. Sterner has now pulled out a 1.5 second gap to Jacques Boerter already. Boerter, of course, having a bit of a recovery drive and a scrap here with Corne Breed. Corne Breed doing well in third position at the moment. Coming down the mine shaft, absolutely glued to the back of Jacques Boerter's car here. Jacques Boerter, of course, our championship leader at the moment. And the man who was certainly setting the pace in practice today, but had somewhat of a fraught qualifying. But as we go across the line to complete the first lap, oh, we have someone running wide there. That's Neil Berger running wide. And Brent Lindsay Ray taking advantage of that mistake from Neil. Neil with his DRS open. Looked like Brent was a bit slow on the DRS there. And Neil takes that position back. Although Brent having none of it with a better drive as they go through barbecue. But it does look like Neil has cemented that place back again. Corne Breed, of course, still in third position, still trying to get Jacques. And as they go through the S's and up to the top to start them making their way down through Leo Cup and then obviously down the mine shaft. After a frantic start, a lot of these drivers are going to have to start to think about their strategy, about their tires. How many pit stops are they going to be making? Personally, I'm expecting 2. I don't know how many everyone else is thinking, but certainly I've got in my head 2 pit stops is most likely going to be what these guys are going to be looking at tonight. Brent getting a little bit of out of shape over those curbs. And Matthew Boy, 9/8. Remember, he got tagged right at the beginning of the race. Oh, we got a spinner in the background. Oh, and a 3-car pileup. That's not good. Can these drivers get out of it? I wonder who caused that. Oh, that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Dirk Brand reversing a little bit badly there, but they're all going again. Now, as I was saying, these drivers are going to have to think about this as an hour-and-a-half race, and exactly what they do with their strategy is going to be quite interesting. Now, as I said, I'm expecting 2 pit stops here, as we're on lap 3. Everybody, actually, I'm completely lying. Not everybody's on hards. We have a wide variety of tire choices at the moment. Now, from what I have been seeing, and there we see contact. Brent making a lunge move. He's clearly been watching the Formula 1 esports streams and banging wheels there with Neil Berger, who's now lost a place out to Mike McGear as well. So that's unfortunate for Neil. Bit of a lunge move from Brent Lindsay Ray, but he's kind of got the move done. little bit of tagging going on now with Matthew Boy trying to make the most of this situation as you go through Ingwe and across the line to start another lap again. DRS open for all three of these drivers. Now Matthew and Neil are both on the hard tires, but let's take a look at Mike McGear, who's being a complete maverick tonight, complete maverick on the soft tires. So considering most drivers were pretty apprehensive about qualifying on the mediums, the fact that he's going into the race on softs shows that this man knows absolutely no fear. However, I'm pretty sure that we can see this guy coming in fairly early for a pit stop. But as I say that, he's the only man on the soft tires, but we do have a split fairly 50-50, possibly in the weighting of the medium tire, which again is interesting because I was talking to Matthew before the start of the race, and he was saying just keeping these tires cool is on the mediums at least is certainly a challenge. Oh, and we have a spinner. We have a spinner. That's Craig Hunter. That's really unfortunate for Craig. It looks like he's lost 4 places. He's had to reverse all the way back to get out the way, and now gets going in 8th position, and could be liable to lose out to Zander. But unfortunately, Zander got that corner all wrong. Went in way too deep, and has missed out his opportunity. And it looks like Craig has come into the pits. He must have damage. Craig must have damage. Let's see what he's on. Craig is on the medium tires right now. Let's see what he comes out with. So losing more places now. He's down to 12th. Should be a fairly short pit stop though. Neil Berger now all over the back of Mike McGear, and Matthew Boy on the back of him. So a great 3-way scrap we have here as we go through Sunset and into Clubhouse. Oh, Matthew Boy throwing it up the inside. Brilliant move through Clubhouse there. Still got the inside line, but he didn't quite have the drive out of Clubhouse. And as we go through the S's, it's given Mike McGear a bit of breathing room here. Certainly, this is the closest battle we have on track at the moment. Certainly, closest 3-way battle. And a couple of little mistakes, and just unsighting Matthew there, not able to make any more headway at this stage. It's popped down the order to Dirk Brand. We saw him have an incident with a few other drivers earlier on, and he's definitely having a bit of a recovery drive. Oh, trying up the inside again, didn't quite work. You really got to get the traction. Oh, and that's not how to do it. Don't go on the grass there. That's liable to spit you off straight into the wall, and that'll be catastrophic for your race hopes. That is for sure. While sort of off camera, Melvin did manage to grab 10th position from Serfontaine, and is now looking to hunt down Dirk Brand, who's still at the moment hounding the back of Zander. Oh, and Zander getting it wrong. Oh, the wall was beckoning. He somehow managed to keep it out the wall there, though. But he does lose a pace and is liable to have Melvin all over the back of him now. Melvin really putting on the pressure now. Got the bit between the teeth. Goodness, look at me. Got the bit between his teeth tonight. Making up some good positions here. And not looking like slowing down. Oh, Matthew Boy has just taken, through the mineshaft, has just taken Neil. Done very well. Also on a bit of a recovery drive is Matt. Neil getting what looked like a better drive. Oh, everybody locking up all over the place and going wide, looking for a wide line for hopefully a better drive onto the start, finish straight. And through the kink. It doesn't seem to have worked out. Oh, and Matt now trying to take advantage. Mike McGear having an awful drive out of that last corner, and through that section, Matthew really gained a lot on him, but unable to make a move. It was just not the right place. Mike going very defensive early, clearly worried about a move from Matthew, and so he should be. Matthew's made a couple of dive bomb moves that really worked out in his favor so far. I'm guessing he's probably still annoyed from that earlier incident. Having a look through Leocop. Nothing doing as yet. Watch for the DRS opening. There it is. All three drivers. Remember, in this format, drivers are allowed to open DRS at any point in time. So it's all about who's brave. You see Mike opening his DRS there a little bit just before they go into cheetah. You've got to remember, if you're not going to climb on the brakes, it won't close automatically. So you've got to close it manually. So you've got to decide, is that potential tiny amount of time worthwhile? Matthew clearly thinking it's not. But as we go through Crowthorne, Matt locking up quite badly. Of course, flat spotting your tyres is definitely going to have an impact on your strategy as well. Craig Hunter, who we saw make a pit stop, he's come out in 14th position, and he's got almost 5 seconds to Johannes van Wyk in front of him. So he's got a bit of fresh air and still on the medium tyres. So we'll watch his race carefully and see how he goes. Back to our battle. Oh, Matthew getting it all wrong there and losing out of place, locking up exceptionally badly. That's gonna have cost him. Let's jump in with Neil, see if he can now make a move on Mike McGear, who's remember on the soft tires. Mike is on the soft tires, and we have now done what have we done? I'm trying to work out how many laps we've done. Hang on, we've done about 8 laps, 9 laps. What are we? 8 laps. 8 laps in. Oh, we gotta have a look at Zander. Clearly trying to make a move here on Melvin. Oh, having none of it. Titanic battle here. Cars all over the shop. And Zander now losing out to Hannes. Oh, we've got people in the pits. Oh, and a dual spin. That was impressive. You almost thought that was choreographed. Marmegi is in the pits. Now, of course, last time you'll have remembered that I said Marmegi was our Mauritian driver. Of course, this was completely wrong. He's actually from Italy, so apologies to him. Maybe I'll start referring to him as our Italian Mauritian. Who knows? But Matthew Boy has now got ahead of Mike McGear. Mike must have made a mistake there, because both Neil and Matt have now passed him. Again, Matt taking that very tight line through Leocop, clearly feeling like it works for him, except we did see him make a mistake. Most others seem to take a much wider line. And through the crocodiles, Matthew getting a much better drive as we go into Cheetah, trying a move. Oh, that's close, Let's see if we can go on board with Matt. So Matthew is now only 0.4 of a second behind. Craig Hunter now, who made that pit stop, has just overtaken Serpentine. Matt going around the outside here in Crowthorne. That's obviously not going to work, but he's looking for the cutback. Oh, and you heard there, had to get off the power and settled the car as he touched those curbs. So unfortunately, as we go through barbecue, it didn't quite work out for Matthew, and getting all over the curbs once again, unsettling the car, and just giving Neil a tiny amount of breathing space. While this goes on, though, let's jump over to Jacques Boerter, who was, of course, our pole sitter. Haven't mentioned Jacques too much so far this race. This man was definitely setting the pace, and hot lap qualifying over the weekend, he was far and away the quickest driver. In fact, being close to over a second, in fact, more than a second quicker than second position. So Jacques really had this car dialed in for a while now, but Lawrence Stern is really putting up a good fight in race trim. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lawrence Stern has actually tuned this car much better for the race, not so focused on a one-lap pace. And both of these drivers are on the hard tyres, so that's very interesting. Our first and second position in the race, currently both on hards, with Matthew Boy in 5th place, the next hard tyre running man. So the leaders think hards are the way forward. Corne Breed in 3rd place, not able to make the mediums work for him in terms of catching up to these two, at being 3.5 seconds behind Jacques, who we're on board with right now. And Melvin has got Neil. Neil's really had some problems. Neil was running right up in 5th not so long ago, and he's fallen all the way back to 11th. Neil must have had a couple of problems. He must have spun or something. And there we go. See him off onto the touching the dirt. Just having a look at his car, trying to see if I can see any damage. I can't see any damage as it is right now. But definitely running quite slowly. You can see he's 5 seconds off his delta. Oh, and that's Melvin in the gravel, unfortunately, now losing 2 places to both Neil and Zander. So Neil manages to claw back one of those positions, but at 5.7 seconds now, down on his best, clearly struggling at the moment. Let's have a look back at Jacques Boerter. He's now only 7/10 behind Lawrence Stern. Sterner having taken Jacques into turn 1 off the start, and I did watch Jacques take the time to do some practice starts, and he seemed to be hooking it up. So we'll have to find out from him after the race exactly why that happened. Down the mine shaft we go, still 0.6 of a second behind, and this is the closest battle we have on track. Nice and easy on the power does Jacques Boerter, and it's clearly paid off for him. DRS open for both drivers, but he's now only 0.5 of a second, half a second behind. 0.4 now. He's really closing the gap. Again, a little bit of a wiggle from Stoner. Both drivers using very slightly different lines through some of these corners, but I mean, when you look at their lap times, they're pretty close. And Serpentine has had an incident. He spun, and Neil and Peter have both gained from that. Let's jump back on board with Jacques as we see Lawrence Sterner locking up. Oh, and there's another mini power slide. That's not going to help him down the mine shaft. You'll see him losing out a little bit. Back marker getting well out of the way for both of these drivers. That's very considerate. All gentlemen drivers here, all 18. And again, Jacques has closed up to Lawrence. Very late on the brakes was Buerta there, very late. Again, the gap has visibly come down. Through sunset there, you saw how much wider Sterner ran. And clearly it's paid off, because you can now see just how much of a gap Sterner has managed to pull, giving him a bit of a breathing room as he goes into Leeuwkop. Buerta getting squirmy under the brakes. Managing to make it stick though, because he's now absolutely culled that gap by 0.4 of a second just through that one corner. Oh! Big moment there for Stoner. Big moment. Jacques would have been licking his lips at the prospect of that one. And again, you've got to be thinking, as we go through Crowthorne, at what point is Jacques Buerta going to decide the gap's small enough to have a little bit of a look? He certainly seems to be much better on the brakes than Sterner in going into Crowthorne. I'm starting to wonder if these two have set their cars up quite differently, especially given the different lines that they're taking. And where each other seems, you know, where one corner one's strong, the next corner the other's strong. So it's, at the moment, honours all even. As we leave these two for a moment, as Marmegi is absolutely all over the back of Serfontaine. He's going to have a move. I can see the lunge coming from a mile away, and Marmegi gives him room, but taps him as he turns in slightly. That's unfortunate. Serfontaine waiting for Marmegi, who's now trying to get himself turned around. That's unfortunate, and Hannes van Wyk really gaining out of that. And with an hour and 7 minutes to go, it really does show that being consistent and sizing up your opponent is where you want. Jacques Buerta has made a mistake. Fallen down to third and now into the pits. So clearly must have made a mistake, probably through Cheetah. Finding his pit, and this really gives Stoner a breather as we wait to see how long Buerta's stationary for. And of course, Cornet Breed has gained out of that. 7 seconds behind the leader, but he'll now be aiming, of course, to take Jacques Buerta in the pit stop phase. That mistake having brought him into contention to do that. And I have to say, the number of mistakes that are happening on this track really show you how difficult Kyalami is to run at. As you see, a back marker getting well out the way. Unless, is that Melvin possibly? It is. He's running exceptionally slowly. I can see he's barely got half RPM at the moment. I wonder, has he run out of fuel possibly? Or is he waiting for someone? No, there's definitely something wrong here. Let's see if he dives into the pits. I think he's just trying to make his way back to the pits. Surely not. Surely he must be coming in. There he is, coming in. Taking a very odd line into the pits. He's run out of... No. There's something not right there. Goodness. Okay, back to Cornet Bread now. 7.3 seconds behind. Definitely losing time to Stoner at the moment. While Jacques Buerta has come out in fifth place and in some air as well. That's good news for Jacques, despite having made that mistake. It's not all over yet. Let's have a look at what lap time Jacques does. Having come out again on the hard tyre, he must have changed tyres. So I remember our predictions were for a two-stop race. So Jacques having done his first stop, and the only other that I can recall is Craig Hunter, and obviously Melvin is now in the pits. So Jacques currently trying to hunt down Matthew Boy and doing a fairly good job of it at the moment. I can see the gap is definitely closing. And let's go and have a look at Dirk Brand now, really chasing down Mike McGeer. The gap only 0.4 of a second at the moment. We've got other people jumping into the pits now. I can see Hannes van Wyk has just jumped into the pits. So with almost a third of the race gone, it's unsurprising if people are going to be doing two stops that they would now be jumping in. Expect the next stop with only half an hour to go. So let's see if these guys stay out or if they too dive for the pits. Just of course depends on how they're fueled and how far they think they can push these tires. I imagine fuel is going to be the problem for most people. Although both Dirk and Craig are on mediums, but Mike McGeer is still on those softs. Mike has somehow made those softs last almost half an hour now. So Mike must know something the rest of us don't. However, he's just lost a place to Dirk Brand, so those tires really must be going off. Although Dirk has just made a mistake, and that has allowed Mike to come back at him. McGeer's got the position and holds on through sunset. Surely Mike must be thinking about coming in now. You can see how much he struggles through those corners. He lost the place already. He's going to be losing time. Hand over first. Let's have a look at Mike. He's 2.8 seconds down on his personal best. So he's really losing time. I know he's battling with Dirk at the moment. But really losing down to 3.7 now. So really, time is absolutely flying out the window for Mike. He definitely needs to pit right now. Definitely needs to put. Well, we see if that's happened. Just to give you an update on Jacques Buerta, he's now 3.5 seconds behind Matthew Boyer. Obviously on newer tires, so he'll have more grip, but more fuel. However, the gap was 4.5 seconds, so he's already taken a second out. And Mike elects to do another lap. That's quite incredible. He must be sticking to his strategy. Alhaba is into the pits. And we have a spinner. Who's that who spun? I can't quite see who's spun. It was Craig. Craig Hunter has spun. Unfortunately, that's a problem for Craig, having taken that early pit stop. Oh, but he may profit. Yep, Xander made a mistake. I do start to wonder how many of these drivers are now struggling with tires. And Jacques Buerta is now only 2.6 seconds behind Matthew Boy. Matthew, I imagine is going to do one more lap. Let's see if my prediction will come true. I'm expecting him to come in at the end of this lap. which will of course suit Jacques to an absolute T, because really he doesn't want to be battling with Matthew. He's looking to be a podium position here, really, and trying to make sure he doesn't lose out to Corne Breert when he finally makes his pit stop. Corne is probably, let's see if I can do my mental maths correctly here, 28:37, about 39 seconds ahead. I've got to be honest, I'm not sure how long a pit stop will take. Typically in these Formula cars, it's pretty quick, so it's going to be close. It's going to be very close. But we'll have to wait and see for when they come in. Mike has now pitted. Our friend on the soft tires has finally pitted, and he's come out the pits in 9th. And let me tell you, Mike is on the medium tire, so he has switched tires, but he hasn't gone to the hards. I really thought he would have gone to the hard tires. But I guess being a third of the way through the race makes sense. If you can make the softs last, although we did see him lose a hell of a lot of time at the end of his soft stint. So you imagine that won't happen on the mediums now. If you can make those softs work, must be able to make the mediums work. Corne Breert there, just going through. On Mike. Mike getting out the way nicely. Jacques Porter hasn't really taken too much out of Matthew Boy this lap. Matthew's found some speed again. Must be the incoming threat of Buerta, giving him a little bit of a hurry up. You can see it's only 5 tenths now worse off from his personal best. As we go down the mine shaft, Jacques has now managed to find his rhythm again and start to close the gap. It's now down to 1.5 seconds. Our closest battle on track, however, in the news is Corne Breert, and he has come out of the pits well ahead of Jacques. Exceptionally good racing from Corne. He had the opportunity and he's made it stick. Brett Lindsay Ray's now in the pits. Matthew still out, now up into 3rd position, although I will imagine he'll drop down a few places other than just losing out to Jacques. Matthew probably knows he's on a different strategy at this stage to Jacques. He would have known that Jacques now made a mistake, so possibly he's trying to slow him up if he gets into the dirty air. But I can't imagine that that's going to work out for him in the long haul. So Lawrence Sterner is now in the pits. Our leader has entered the pits with Corne Breert in 2nd, only coming down the mine shaft now. So let's see how close it is. Stone still sitting stationary. Breert now through Cheetah. Stone is moving in and he's off. Right, let's see what the gap is between these two. There we go, 14 seconds. So Stoner's really gained out of that. No, it's now down to 8 seconds. I lie. Timing screens have just refreshed. So 8 seconds separates Stoner and Breert. So really honours even through that through this phase. We'll see what happens in the next pit stop phase. But they were about 8 seconds apart before the pit stop started. So that's well done to Corne. Playing it solid. Jacques Buerta now stuck seemingly at a 2nd behind Matthew Boy. And Matthew's still giving it his absolute all. Oh, I've just cursed him. Matthew's gone off. Looks like he managed to avoid the wall, but that's promoted Jacques up into third position. Cost Matt about 6.5 seconds. That I've got to imagine that he's going to take the opportunity to pit, but as we've seen, after 23 laps of this race, I have been wrong on numerous occasions already. You'd think, being my team principal, I'd know what he's going to do better than this, but apparently I don't. Let's see if he jumps into the pits. He doesn't. So really going for a long stint is Matthew. Let's have a look at Mike McGear, who's 2 seconds behind Xander. You can see Xander going through Clubhouse while Mike McGear follows him in sight. Craig Hunter looks like he's made another small error with Marmegi getting past him. Hannes van Wyk now is closing in on Craig. Almost looked like Hannes was going to have a lunge there. At 7/10 behind, that would have been an exceptionally bold move. And probably wouldn't have ended badly, so I'm glad he didn't. As we go down the mine shaft now, he's 6/10 behind. And through Crocodile. Cheetah. Oh, and Craig getting all out of shape through Cheetah. Having to take a very narrow line through Ingwe, and now Hannes is absolutely all over the back of him. Let's have a look at what this pass is going to look like through the kink. It's absolutely side by side. Hannes is ahead, but he does run very wide. Oh, we got a spinner. That's very unfortunate for Craig. It would have been an absolute done deal for him. But he does manage to retain that position, and both of them now profit off Marmegi's spin. Still, Hannes is in the hunt for Craig. Pun intended. Just regrouping a little bit now. I do get the sense that Hannes is definitely quicker at this stage of the race. Let's flick back now to our top three and have a look at how they're doing. Lawrence Stern, of course, still out in front. Doing an excellent job, having pulled out another 2.5 seconds on Corne Breed from the pit stops. If you remember, Corne Breed did very well through the pit stop phase and came out 8.2 seconds behind Lawrence Stoner, which was basically what the gap was as they went in. However, now, given the fresh rubber, Lawrence Stern has really put the hammer down, and another 2.5 seconds is his net result. Of course, the other man that we have to worry about is Jacques Buerter, who is 10 seconds behind Corne Breed now. So let's have a look and see how this gap does. It's pretty stable. It has been pretty stable for the last couple of laps. So right now, the top three, with Lawrence on hards, Cornet on mediums, and Jacques Buerta also on hards. So Cornet's still making those mediums work, as it looks like. Who's that spinning? That's Hannes van Wyk having another spin, and Marmegi and Hannes actually gained a position thanks to Zander going into the pits. But unfortunate there for Hannes, making an error there. Matthew Boy having dropped to 8.7 seconds now behind Jacques Buerta. I almost wonder, if Matthew isn't possibly trying to make a one-stop strategy work. Now, I haven't seen him go into the pits yet, but I may have missed it. But it's unlikely he'll be able to make one stop work with fuel. That's the one thing. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to play out. We'll have to just wait and see. Corne Breed now keeping that gap to Lawrence Sterner honest. Now just squeaking under the 10-second delta. And Jacques Buerta is still 10 seconds behind that as he comes up behind some traffic. Getting out nicely through the S's. The kind back marker ensuring that Jacques has really lost absolutely no time behind. Right, so with 47 minutes remaining in this race, we are looking at, between Numi and the bedpost, let's call it halfway through the race. And our closest battle on track at the moment is Brett Lindsay Ray closing down on Matthew Boy. So Brent is a second off his personal best, and Matthew is 3 seconds. Matthew's finally in the pits. We did manage to catch him coming into the pits, so an exceptionally long first stint for Matthew Boy. This makes me think that he's somehow going to make a one-stopper work, because this is virtually on the button of halfway through the race. So out he comes, very quick stop. So either what's happening here is he's pushed that car as far as it possibly can go on the hard tires, and with the fuel sloshing out the tank, it is so full. And he's now going to do two very short stints, still on the hard tire though. In which case, I would expect to see him close up very quickly to those in front, as we see Brett Lindsay having a moment and smacking the wall. That's going to result in some damage for Brent. We'll have to keep an eye and see if he decides to pit to repair it. So yes, Matthew, either expect two very short stints here and some amazing lap times coming out. We'll have to watch his delta, or potentially he's found a way to do a one-stop strategy. And that'll be very interesting, because I think he's the only man to potentially to try that. Okay, and across the line, Matt now starts his first flying lap. We got Marmegi in the pits. Really interested to see what his Delta does. Jacques Butter is now starting to close up on Cornet Bread. He's now just under 9 seconds. So it's taking a while, but he's slowly chipping away at that gap. Cornet Bread, remember, having profited from the mistake that Jacques Butter made, and now will be looking to try and consolidate second place. While he's managed to hold that gap to Sterner after losing a couple of seconds after the pit stops, he still looks unlikely to really be able to challenge it. Alright, so Matthew 7/10ths down on his best. So my gut feeling on this one, oh! Big slide, Tokyo Drift style. Allowing, I think that's Neil Berger. Yes, that is in fact Neil Berger. Remember, Neil was quite far up in this race at one stage. He was running well into the top 10. Him and Matt, in fact, were battling for quite a while, probably about the first 20 minutes even of this race. And then a number of mistakes from Neil has unfortunately put him all the way down into 13th position. So now, while Jacques Buerta, as I said, had got the gap down to just under 9 seconds, it's now 8.5 seconds. You certainly can't say that he's really making massive inroads into Cornet Breed's gap. So this will be very comforting to Cornet, although of course he's on the medium tires. So if this is going to work out for Jacques, then I'd imagine we'd start to see him really eat into that lead, possibly in about 5 to 10 minutes time when the mediums start to go off, and just before these guys do their second pit stop. Remember, at this stage, I'm expecting everybody to do 2 pit stops, except for possibly Matthew Boy, who I think could be on a sneaky one-stopper. Now, our closest battle on track at the moment is Marmegi trying to catch up to Zander, with there being a 2-second gap between them. Craig Hunter has dived into the pits. Now, remember, Craig was one of our first pit stops of this race. So it's not surprising to me that he's now back out, but it's not surprising that he's taken another early pit stop, having made that mistake early on in the race. Now trying to recover. So Craig looking for the undercut, hoping that it's going to work. And in all honesty, it should work to start with, but at the end of the race, expect Craig to be a bit slower than everybody else. and others behind trying to challenge for that position. Matthew Boy now coming up behind Craig. Blue flags will of course be out. Oh! Matthew very lucky to get away with that. Dipping 2 wheels into the grass down the mine shaft. That's certainly not the quickest way to take the mine shaft. And now this is interesting. Jacques and Cornet have both decreased the gap to the man in front. So now Jacques is only 7 seconds behind Cornet, and Cornet is only 7.5 seconds behind Lawrence. So something's gone on. Our leader is in fact very close to setting the fastest lap, his personal fastest lap of the race. So there must have been something going on in the previous lap, and now Lawrence has really recovered. Yep, and that's a 1:30.092 for Lawrence, a very quick lap there from him. And that's shown Cornet Breed doing a 1:31.1, so that's a full second quicker. So Lawrence Sterner must have had a problem. And Jacques Borta in a 1:30.438. So we're looking at Jacques. Jacques definitely closing in on Cornet Breed now. Lawrence Stern clearly made a mistake. And I think what we could be seeing is Cornet Breed, possibly his tires are starting to go off. Let's have a look at his delta as we go through Clubhouse. So fairly good reference point. He's only a 10th off his best though. So again, the 3 are current podium. Having a scrappy lap followed by some fairly quick ones, trying to regain their foothold on their relative positions. But Stoner's definitely got the hammer down now again. Let's see what they do when they come across the line. Stoner, remember, 1:30 dead last time. 1:30.1, very consistent. Excellent work indeed. Half a tenth slower than his previous. Cornet Bread of 30.1, dead heat, absolute dead heat between first and second place. And Jacques Bout at 1:30.3, so losing out, but only by a tenth. I mean, goodness, though, our top 3, there's absolutely nothing to separate them right now. It's all coming down to who can be consistent and who can keep that car on the black stuff. I know these are, some people might say, only F3 cars, but as anyone who's raced a single-seater will know, it is not an easy task to keep these cars going and quickly. So the gap Jacques Bourta to Cornet Breed is now back to 7 seconds. With Cornet at this stage going very slightly quicker than Jacques. But ladies and gentlemen, really talking about tenths here. So Cornet Breed on a slightly slower lap. He's 6 tenths down on his best. 6 tenths up. Stoner across the line at 30.4 now. Breed 30.5. What do we see for Jacques? 30.6? What do we think? No, he'll be quicker than that, I think. 30.1. So of the 3, Jacques doing the quicker time. So they're really trading blows at the moment. Punch and counter punch right now. remember, a big mistake from either one of these drivers is going to have a catastrophic effect on their race. A spin, easily going to cost you 5 seconds, easily. So neither one wanting to make a mistake, that's for sure. Neither one of these three can afford to make a mistake. All the while, Matthew Boy in a fairly lonely 4th place at the moment. 5 seconds ahead of Brett Lindsay Ray, who's just dived into the pits. And slightly smacking the wall on the way in as well. I'm sure he'll repair that damage, but unfortunate for Brent. So that gives Matt a whole lot of breathing room. So imagine that that's Brent's final stop for the race. Just before half an hour to go. I'm expecting our trio of Sterner, Breed, and Buerta to all pop in around the half an hour mark. So Sterner doing quite a slower lap there, definitely into the 31s. So either traffic or a mistake playing its part there. Allowing Breed to get down to 7 seconds between them. Jacques Buerta has also done a sterling job the last couple of laps and got it down to 6 seconds. Brent's been in the pits for an awful long time. I expect repairing that damage has really taken a lot of time out of him, and now losing a place to Hannes van Wyk. Jacques Buerta now under 6 seconds behind Cornet Breed. 5 tenths off his best. Cornet 7 tenths off his best on this lap, and that's probably why it's behind some back markers. You can definitely lose time, and that's possibly what Lawrence Sterner lost all that time for as well. So Lawrence Sterner, there we go. You can see it back as a 130.1 as we see Breed doing a wonderful drift coming through the final corner, resulting in 130.8 for Breed. So not losing as much time as Sterner did behind the traffic, but still not exactly what he would have liked, and that gap's back to 8 seconds now. So Sterner's had a problem here. Sterner has definitely had a problem. At 3.7 seconds off his personal best, and behind some traffic, that gap has been cut all the way down to 5 seconds. And speaking of gaps having been cut, Jacques Buerta is now only 4 seconds behind Cornet Breed. So these three are really starting to bunch up. And so we see Buerta going through the crocodiles while we look at Sterner going through Ingwe. And there's another big mistake. Big lockup from Sterner. Back marker all over him. What's going to happen here? As we go through the kink and finally into Crowthorne. The back marker not making a move. Probably wise decision there. The gap now only 4 seconds. So as Sterner enters sunset, we see Breed can almost see Sterner up ahead. These three putting on a great show for us tonight as Jacques Bottas just for the first time dips into under 4 seconds between him and Corne Briet. As Bottas goes through Leo Kopp. Back marker getting out the way. Absolutely no time lost there. A big win for Jacques Bottas there. It's actually quite incredible how your luck with the back markers can really affect your race, as we just dip under half an hour to go this race. Who's going to blink and who's going to go into the pits? Sterner with a 30.2, so that's still a good lap time. And Briet with a 30.5, call that 30.6 actually, and a 30.2 for Jacques Bottas. So once again, these three exceptionally close together. It's those little mistakes that are really starting to bunch them up. Mike McGear is now in the pits in 6th position. And out he comes. Trying to hang on to that 6th place. I think he'll do it quite comfortably. Matthew Boy running significantly slower than the top three, and as a result is over a minute now behind our leaders. That one-stop strategy that we were talking about earlier on in the race, about the halfway mark, really going to be seeing now if that's the case. I've got to be honest though, it's unlikely to be paying off. If he's losing 2 seconds a lap, there's absolutely no way that will pay off. It will, however, cement him fourth place. Now we have Jacques Bottas only 3 seconds behind. Let's have a look on board with Jacques. Just now able to see Corne Briet ahead of him. As we go through sunset. Looking wonderful at this time of day. The man who had pole position all the way back in 3rd, I say all the way, still on the podium, but back in 3rd. We've seen this throughout the whole season. Jacques Bottas, his driving style is exceptionally well thought out and smooth. Very deliberate turn of the wheel and application of the throttle. So there's very little spinning of those rear wheels, and he dives into the pits. Jacques is the first to blink. Into the pits he goes. Lawrence Sterner, meanwhile, has done a 29.9, exceptionally quick time, and Corne Briet a 30.3. So Jacques feeling like he wants to try the undercut. See how long he's stationary for. That's a quick stop. That's a properly quick stop, and out he comes. So Jacques trying for the undercut. Corne seeing a spinner in front of him, and it's Lawrence Sterner. Sterner has made a mistake. Sterner has made a mistake. Corne Briet is all over the back of him now. This is Corne's chance. Sterner, you have to imagine, his tyres are slightly cooked from that. We have seen a couple of mistakes from Sterner over the past few laps, possibly concentration, I'm not sure. But as we go up and over the hill through Leo Kopp and down the mine shaft, oh, Briet getting ahead of himself there. That's really allowed Sterner to take the initiative and put a second and a half between them. You see some tire smoke, not from Stoner though. Definitely a back marker. Let's see who of these, if any, jump into the pits. Stoner stays out. So does Briet. So both of these two drivers staying out. Either Briet feels like he can put more pressure on Stoner, or both of them have the same strategy plan at this stage of the race. Buerta now 20 seconds behind them. Unlikely to have known about the incident, except if he's paying attention to his delta. And very close attention. Because he will be absolutely in the mix if these two come out where we think they would. Briet, of course, not having lost any time, but Stoner definitely losing that time. Corne Briet right now is absolutely bang on point for his fastest lap of the race. Stoner locking up. Those tires clearly have taken a pounding. But recovering to have have 2 seconds now between him and Briet. And another mistake from Stoner. We see a lead change. That was the moment. And Briet has decided to jump into the pits. Let's see what Stoner does. Stoner keeps going unbelievably. He's locked his tires up so much in the last couple of laps and made mistakes. You'd have thought for sure he was going to jump into the pits there. Briet now will be really concerned with Buerta behind him. Where's Jacques? Jacques now coming out of Ingwe. Putting that power down. Desperate to get as much as he can. A 30.1, a good lap time from him, but it's just not enough. In fact, Briet has gained, I'd say, an awful lot out of that. No, what do we, as the delta equalizes, looking at about 4 seconds, which is what it was before the pit stops began. So Briet has really done well out of that on fresh tires now and less fuel. That's exceptionally well handled from Briet. So Briet on the medium still and hasn't pitted, has just pitted. Buerta on the hards. So we know that both of these drivers will be completely fine to get to the end of the race. Stoner having not pitted now, although I imagine he's going to lose the lead. Being 3 seconds off the pace this lap. What is going on with Stoner? I don't understand it. Locking up at odd times. He must jump into the pits there. Can't slow the car down. Those tires are absolutely done. Something is not right there. Does not look right here. Expect Briet to take the lead, and that he does. This could really cost Stoner at least 2. It does. Stoner has lost 2 positions through that, from the lead into third with those couple of mistakes. That is a tough pill to swallow. That really is. But from where I was sitting, it looked like driver error. Possibly his tires were completely finished with all that locking up. I don't know. But now our leader, Corne Briet, on medium tires, 2.7 seconds behind Jacques Buerta. Ahead of Jacques Buerta. Absolutely riveting race at the top. I cannot believe that the podium is so close. Remember, at one stage, these drivers were around 12 seconds apart from each other, and they've really closed up. And in fact, Stoner, the man leading the race by, let's call it 24 seconds over Buerta, has now slipped back into third position. So Buerta really going to be hunting down Cornet Bread now, less than 20 minutes to go. So 20 minutes to do it. At 1 minute 30 a lap. What are we going to be looking at there? 13 laps-ish? 12 laps? No, my math's all wrong. Okay, the gap at 2 seconds now. Buerta really got the hammer down. Almost a second, almost 2/10 now good on his personal best. Breed is in his sights. He wants that win. Having a look at Breed. Breed is 4/10 off his personal best. So expect to see a move in the next couple of laps. Unless that dreaded mistake happens. We've seen it from almost every driver in the field tonight. It hasn't been a perfect drive. You remember Jacques Buerta's win last time out was an absolute masterclass. There have been some cracks in our current championship leader. But out to prove that he can win even in the most difficult of circumstances. 1.5 seconds is now the gap. On board with Jacques, you can just see how close he is now to Cornet Bread. But as we know, catching's one thing, passing's another. Where's he going to do it? I mean, there are definitely a few opportunities around Kyalami. It's not like you have to force somebody into a mistake. And we have seen people clashing wheels. Remember Matthew Boy on that one move. So it is possible to make a bit of a dive bomb and make it stick, especially if your opponent plays ball and wants to maintain their position, maintain those points. Some drivers, of course, all about the win. Some drivers, all about the championship. Of course, you need both to win at the end of the day, but you also don't want to be sacrificing when you know you're that much slower. Oh, Breed getting very tight and locking up, feeling the pressure now. Seems to be feeling the pressure from Jacques Buerta. The gap now just under a second. This is the first time it's dipped under a second. Lawrence Sterner 10 seconds behind Jacques Buerta. As we go into Crowthorne, both drivers keeping it nice and tidy. That's well done. Sterner at a 1:31 dead, so he's really fallen off the pace. Remember, all three of these drivers were doing 30s, 30 deads. So now at a 31 dead, Sterner really, I think, disheartened and broken a little bit from that. Matthew Boy 52 seconds behind Sterner though, so unlikely to come into play for that third position. Boy having, we think, tried to make the one-stopper work. It's been good enough for fourth place so far. I imagine all the incidents he was involved in the beginning of the race have necessitated that one-stop strategy. So down the mine shaft we go with only half a second now between these two drivers. Back marker up ahead, a little bit of a wiggle from Buerta through Cheetah. Ooh. Just backing out of it very slightly. Into the pits, Serpentine. Oh, and another slide. That's going to cost him. There won't be a move now. Serpentine losing a position out to Xander. Because of the pits. Marmegi now in the pits as well. We're not going to move from this battle though for the lead. too important at this stage as we go through the Yuxke and barbecue. A couple of little mistakes from Buerta put that gap back to a second, but now Corne Breert under pressure again, under a second is the gap. Again, I've talked about the smoothness of Buerta's driving style, but we've seen those mistakes. Not infallible, either of these drivers. Well, no driver is infallible, but Kyalami really proving a challenge for the entire field today. You can see that car squirming as you come down the mine shaft, really struggling to put that traction down. Got to be so careful with your throttle work. And once again, we're back to half a second between these two drivers. Can Buerta get a good ride? Oh, and that's wide. Breert has run wide. Surely he cannot. He cannot maintain this. Side by side they go. Through the kink. Buerta has the inside line. This must be it. Oh, he backs out. He backs out. The back marker deciding it wasn't worth it. I've got to be honest, I would have thrown a move there. I would have absolutely thrown a move there. Especially Breert had made a mistake. That was the gap at the inside line. Last of the late breakers. Corne Breert proving his mettle there. Jacques Buerta, discretion the better part of whatnot. And I mean, actually, probably with a level head. Buerta at the moment with more to lose in the championship, I'd say, if this goes horribly wrong. I mean, let's face it. Every driver's going to want to win every race if they can. But the Niki Lauda, Alain Prost, Jackie Stewart mentality would say, take the points. Don't be rash. After that small mistake, Corne Breert doing a great job of keeping the fast-charging Buerta from nipping at his heels. And coming up against yet more back markers. This is going to be interesting. How are they going to deal with it? Let's have a look at Corne. He's going to run into them first. Oh, it's a spin. It's a spin for Corne, and that has lost him the lead. Did he tap? Did he tap the back marker? I don't think he did. I think he just unsighted himself. That is exceptionally unfortunate for Corne Breert. Oh, very disappointing to see a mistake deciding the outcome of that battle. With 10 minutes to go, it's not over yet, but you've got to imagine that Buerta would need to make a mistake for these two to come back together again. Sterner 5 seconds behind Breert, so again, Breert shouldn't really lose that second position, but Jacques Buerta is once again in the lead. The last time we saw this man in the lead was on the first lap where he lost it into the first corner, unless you count the kink, which I personally don't, but Buerta through Crowthorne. The gap 4 seconds between himself and Corne Breert. And growing smaller, but only because of the back markers at this stage. We'll have to see how Breert navigates them. mistake there. I've got to be honest, this is now Botha's for the losing. He's got everything in hand. Made that recovery drive. It's been by no means perfect for anyone. But let's jump back to Craig Hunter now, that we've seen a form of resolution in our top three, being just 1.2 seconds at this stage behind Hannes van Wyk. Hunter with a great move through Crothon, Yuxke, and now into Barbecue. Oh, a little bit of a wiggle on the way out, and that's cost him on his best, but still gaining. So Craig is currently on the mediums with Hannes on the hards. Equaling his best at the moment, and Hannes definitely struggling a bit more, 6/10 off. Hunter catching up again in this the latter part of this lap. Always keeping an eye out for Matthew Boy, seeing if he's going to make a last-ditch pit stop. 7 minutes to go. Doing a 1:35.5. Very slow lap there from Matthew. But possibly just consolidating between himself and Dirk Brandt. Dirk's 38 seconds down the road, so it's not like he needs to set the world alight with his lap times. Back to Craig. Still 1.2. Oh! That's unfortunate. That's going to cost him. Gap's going to grow probably to around 2 seconds, I'd imagine, with that mistake. Very well held, though. As soon as you hit the grass in one of these, unless you got all your ducks in a row, you are going to hit the wall, my friend. At the front, the gap is now just under 3 seconds. So unless my eyes mistake me, I think Cornet Bread is slowly catching back up to Jacques Botha. Let's see what their lap time's like. Never over until it's over. 6 minutes left. Having done 55 laps. Here we go. Let's see what Jacques does. A 30.6 followed by a 30.1. That's half a second quicker on that lap was Cornet Bread. If he was doing half a second a lap quicker per lap, he is unlikely to be able to overtake. With about 3, possibly 4 laps left of this race. But Bread right now on an absolute stonker, 3/10 quicker than his best. Through Sunset and into Clubhouse. There we go, you can see. Let's have a look on board. Unfortunately, a little bit scrappy at the top of the mine shaft, allowing that gap to grow to over 3 seconds again. I imagine we're going to see a pretty quick lap here from Jacques Boerter. Yes, he's call that 3/10 quicker than his best. Let's see, here we go. Into Ingwe, a little bit of a lockup, but that's okay. Not too bad. Here we go, here we go. This is going to be 3/10 quicker than his best. This will be a quick lap. 29.5. That's the fastest lap of the race, and we were on board to witness it happen. Corne Breed doing a 30.0. Not shabby at all, yet Jacques Boerter with an absolute stonker towards the very end of this race, showing he still has a little bit left in the tank. Not about to give up that win, unless he can absolutely help it. Dirk Brand is now taking massive chunks of time out of Matthew Boy. Matthew Boy is only 18 seconds. He's had a mistake. That's why Matthew Boy on this lap alone, going into Clubhouse, has lost 10 seconds on this lap already. He must have had a spin. So the gap is now only 16 seconds. He had, at one stage, not too long ago, he had well over 4 seconds. So Matthew having an absolute torrid time, just trying, I think, to get to the end of this race. Let's have a look at the front of his car, try to see if we can pick up any damage. Again, I can't see anything, but very difficult to tell in these single-seat cars. Really trying to eke out this one-stop strategy. The man who told me that it wasn't going to be possible might just do it. I guess that's a typical team principle. Play your cards close to your chest, even if he is my own team principle. Very neat and tidy through Yuxke. Much better lap so far. Easy to get the car out of control through barbecue, but he's done alright. So Craig Hunter now only 0.8 of a second behind Hannes van Wyk. Remember, these two have been battling for a while now for 7th position. Some good points on offer here. But always so far this has ended with a bit of a mistake, and there's the mistake. Hannes van Wyk running wide. And Craig Hunter saying, thank you very much, I'll have that position with pleasure. But, oh, Craig, I was just singing your praises. And you go and give the position back to Hannes. No one seems to want 7th position. 1 minute, 20 seconds left of this lap. Let's see where Jacques Boerter is. Coming through the kink. This is likely to be the last lap of the race, this. So remember, Jacques, having come into this race, definitely the favorite, set the fastest lap in hot lap qualifying by a good margin. Had somewhat of a troubled qualifying, but did manage eventually to stick the car on pole. Taken into Crowthorne on the first lap, so into turn 2, lost out into 2nd position, then made a mistake and fell down to 3rd. Had to pit early and has slowly worked his way back up. Been a bit of a battle of attrition, this one. But Jacques Boerter now down the mine shaft with 15 seconds left on the clock. Jacques 1.3 seconds off his best right now. I wonder if he's trying to manage the time. Make sure the clock ticks over. Leader's now on the final lap through Ingwe. Very well done. Jacques Boerter taking the win. Corne Breed coming in 2nd. Lawrence Stoner stopped. Why is Lawrence Stoner stopped? He must have had a big incident at Cheetah. Something happened right at the end there. Stoner's still going to be able to bring it home in third, I think. Oh my goodness, hitting the barrier there. Something's gone very badly wrong. Matthew Boy, though, way too far off to take advantage. Matthew Boy in fourth, making that one-stop strategy work for him. Having had many incidents right at the beginning, still making that one-stop strategy work, coming home an incredible fourth. Dirk Brand, donuts for fifth. As we watch Mike McGear coming down through Cheetah for the last time to take a sixth position. Very well done to Mike. Solid performance. And Hannes van Wyk and Craig Hunter, that elusive seventh position, eventually going to Hannes. Craig coming in at eighth. Marmegi in ninth. Serpentine 10th. Zander in 11th. Brent in 12th. Barry May in 13th. And Neil Berger in 14th. And all that is left for me to do while Jacques does some victory donuts is to say thank you very much to everyone for watching, and good night.